Hello everyone. Today we're going to be discussing the Battle of Badr. This is Islamiyat IGCSE. So we're going to go through the reasons of why this battle took place and the events. And so one thing you should know is that there's a lot of significance of this battle to the Muslims. Right, so let's jump into the reasons. Now, the Quraysh were not happy at the peaceful settlement of the Muslims, and the Prophet ﷺ was well aware of their evil intentions. Right, sometimes they would even go as far as, attacking the grazing fields of the Muslims and burning their cattle and farms at night. So thus the Prophet ﷺ started sending parties to patrol the outskirts of Medina. That's Medina. And he dispatched Talha bin Ubaidullah as well as Sa'id bin Zayed. Right, and they actually found out that there was a Meccan caravan returning from Syria, right? And the leader of this caravan was Abu Sufyan. That's leader of the caravan. Now, the two men hurried back to Medina and reported this to the Holy Prophet ﷺ. Now, Abu Sufyan, who was at the time the leader of the Quraysh, had gone on a business trip to Syria where he sold the goods and bought weapons. Now, these weapons were to be used against the Muslims. And he was now returning from Syria with a large trading caravan belonging to the Quraysh. Now the Prophet ﷺ decided to intercept the caravan. Abu Sufyan got the information and sent a messenger to Mecca asking the Meccan chiefs for help. Abu Jahl was always envious of the peace settlement of the Muslims and how much they've grown in power and numbers, was always ready to, go on a war with Muslims. Now Abu Jahl, he immediately, that's Abu Jahl. Abu Jahl immediately departed with an army of 1,000 men. So this is 1,000 men. And moved swiftly northward to Badr, a village 80 miles away from Medina. So these men were going to Badr. That's a village which is 80 miles from Medina. Now, on his way, he received another message, right? He received another message from Abu Sufyan asking him to go back home because the caravan had escaped the Muslims. But since we know Abu Jahl so well and how bad, he wanted to punish the Muslims and prevent them from intercepting any caravans in the future, he continued and didn't listen. And so he was heading towards Badr with an army of 1,000 men. Imagine that number. And when the Holy Prophet ﷺ received the news that Abu Jahl was approaching with his army, he set out towards Badr along with his 313 men. Now, as you can see, the difference in size is actually pretty significant. This is not even a third of the army that Abu Jahl was bringing from Quraysh. Moreover, they were trained and ready, and they had armor, right? They had 70 horses, and a large number of weapons and supplies. Now the Holy Prophet marched towards Badr with a small army, and the Quraysh reached the battlefield of Badr first, and they occupied all the points of advantage. The Muslims, on the other hand, could not get near any well, right? Any well in the desert, and desert, it's very hot, and so then it was suggested by Hubab bin Munzir radiallahu anhu to take possession of a nearby well, and the Holy Prophet ﷺ accepted the suggestion and asked the Muslims to take over the well. Now, right, and so the next morning, this is happening at nighttime. The next morning, it had rained in the desert, and it had rained so hard that the ground had become firm, so it was easier now to actually fight the battle, because earlier the feet of the camels were sinking, and now because it has rained hard, the grounds were firm, and everybody was ready for a battle. Now this battle took place in the morning of a Friday, and it actually happened on the 17th of Ramadan. Right. Now the Holy Prophet ﷺ drew up his little army and arranged the ranks. Now he gave strict orders that his men should not start fighting until he gave the order. He also advised them to use their arrows carefully and not to resort to swords until the enemy was very close. Now everybody is ready for the battle. Now, as per the custom in Arabia, the 3 best soldiers for one army were supposed to fight with the 3 best soldiers of the opponent army. So right here, if you can see this, these are the 3 best soldiers from the Muslim army, and the name Ali radiallahu anhu. This one Hamza radiallahu anhu. So they were the 3 best soldiers. And last but not least, Ubaidah bin Harith radiallahu anhu. So these were the 3 best soldiers from the Muslim army. And here, from the Quraysh side, it was Utbah, Shaiba, as well as Walid stepped forward and asked the Muslims to send their men. Now, when the battle started, the Muslims actually managed to get all of them killed. All of these 3 best soldiers. Now take a look at this. They've killed the best soldiers of one army. Now the rest are going to be a piece of cake, right? Now as the fighting started, the Holy Prophet ordered his men to shoot the arrows first and then hurl stones, right? And when the enemy kept marching onwards, a 1-to-1 battle with swords commenced. Now soon the enemy started losing, the battle, and their prominent leaders got killed one by one. So the prominent leaders were Abu Jahl, Umayyah ibn Khalaf, as well as Qutaba ibn Rabi. They got killed. and soon the Quraysh army lost hope and scattered in dismay. Now, the death toll in this battle was as follows. From the Quraysh side, 70 pagans were killed, 70 killed, and 70 were taken as prisoners. I'm going to elaborate on this and what happened to the other 70. But from Muslim side, 14 were shaheed, right? And only 14. And on this side, it was 70. So the result of the battle was obviously in the favor of the Muslims, and the Muslims won the battle, and they emerged victorious. Now, a large amount of booty, which is any leftovers from the war, was collected by the Muslims, and the war booty was divided equally among the soldiers and the families of the retirees. Now, from these prisoners, some were freed, but obviously after they paid a ransom. Others were also freed, and that is if they were old and poor, so they had nothing to give, and if they were able to actually give knowledge, right? So they were, if they could, teach the Muslim children for a fixed time, then they were also set free after they have taught whatever they know to the Muslim children. So right here, we can see that none of the prisoners were abused. Instead, we see that Islam gives a lot of importance to knowledge, right? So all of them were actually set free. Now let's move on to the significance. This is the last part of the Battle of Badr. Significance. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this battle has a huge significance in the lives of the Muslims, because this day, the day of the Battle of Badr, is actually mentioned in the Quran as Yawmul Furqan. Let me write that. Yawmul Furqan. That's mentioned in the Quran. Second, this victory actually inspired the Muslims and gave them confidence, right? Confidence to Muslims, because it gave them courage, and they now know that they're actually capable and their physical power is up there, right? The third, the battle immensely helped to strengthen the Prophet's position in Medina. So now the Prophet's position in Medina was strengthened. Fourth, the pride and prestige of the Quraysh was totally destroyed by the splendid victory of the Muslims. As I mentioned earlier, some of the influential leaders of the Quraysh were killed. So their pride as well as prestige of Quraysh actually all got into the rubble. And the next one is that a large number of people of Medina embraced Islam, which added to the strength and power of faith. So Islam actually grew stronger from this battle because a large number of people started embracing Islam. And last but not the least, the disbelievers of Arabia and Jews became aware of the power of Islam and realized the strength of the Muslims. So anytime they were, even thinking of attacking the Muslims, they would know that they're actually pretty strong. So disbelievers realized strength of Muslims, and so the power of Islam. That's it, guys, for the video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and a subscribe.